All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Elise Lasco. Deb is a mentor of mine. I'm in my final year as a doctoral student at Pacific College of Health and Science for acupuncture and Chinese medicine. Deb has been my mentor and a mentor to many. So I'm going to let Deb go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. And if you did not already hear this, feel free to put your name in the chat where you're practicing. And we're going to be saving all questions for the end tonight, but if you have questions as we go, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. All right, Deb.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this exciting class. I am thrilled to be here sharing this really great information with you. So tonight's class is called Discovering Navel Cupping, the magnificent and marvelously effective TCM modality. And I am your teacher, Dr. Deb Davies. So for those of you that don't know me, just a little bit of background. I started at PCOM. I went to school there. I got my master's and doctorate there. I became a CEU provider while I was in school, and I started hosting other classes. Once I graduated with my master's, I started my own company called Push San Diego. And it was a perinatal integrative clinic. And so I've been practicing for many years. I teach a little bit at Yosan in their doctorate program for women's health, as well as I teach at Eastern School in New Jersey. I teach their women's health online, as well as teaching classes on Net of Knowledge, or most of you are probably in the US, so you know LASA OMS. All of LASA classes carry my work as well. In 2022, I formally started my mentorship program, teaching perinatal care. And then last year, I also started working at Pacific College clinic. I had taught there years prior. So just a little bit about me and my why I'm so passionate about this information, why I want to share with you is really something that hits home and hits deep to me. When I was pregnant with my first many years ago, I had an uncomplicated pregnancy. I had no risks, no issues. And then sadly, my baby died on her due date, and I had to give birth to a dead baby. So it was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. It rocked me to my core. And it's why I'm so freaking passionate about women's health, especially, and about making a difference here. So today we're going to talk about a couple different topics. So one is, what is navel cupping? We'll talk about the history, the theory behind it. We'll talk about conditions that navel cupping supports, as well as very explicit directions on how to do the navel cupping. We'll talk about contraindications, as well as some success stories from different patients. So what is navel cupping? Basically, it's a technique that involves using a glass cup to create suction on the navel and the surrounding areas. It's been used for centuries in ancient Asian traditions to treat a variety of health issues. So I'm going to show you a short video of me doing the navel cupping, and then we're just going to talk about it. But I thought it would be good to see it in action as well before we go through it. So let me just play this short little clip here. This was obviously during the pandemic. Hey there, Dr. Deb Davies, and I am working with a patient today that has excessive bleeding and has been very cold. And so what we're doing is navel cupping to help pull some of the cold out of the belly. So we start by putting a little bit of oil on your belly. Okay. And then I'm going to take a tissue and wrap a silver dollar in it. It's like a little magic trick. And roll it up. And then pop off the top and just place this right on the umbilicus. And the reason that we're doing this is to hold the essential chi in the body, and then to only pull out what's pathogenic or cold. So I heat up a cup. to body temperature using hot water, and I check it with my inner arm, and then I'll test on the patient. Just let me know if this is okay. So that doesn't scare them when you put it on them. So I'm going to take the lighter and light the tissue, and I'm going to cover it immediately with the cup. The cup extinguishes the flame, and it sucks the belly up into the cup. So I would leave this on about 30 minutes for somebody to shimmy their hips just to get the energy moving. But this is navel cupping. Okay, so that is just a short little demo that you get to see pictures or videos of. This woman's story was so interesting. When she came to me, she had been bleeding for 8 months nonstop without a break. She had endometriosis and was bleeding like crazy. And she told me that when she would stand up or change positions, clots the size of oranges came out of her. So she was hemorrhaging all the time. She was having a lot of health problems. And I had recently learned the navel cupping. And I said, look, you need to come in twice a week. I need to see you twice a week for at least a month. And within 1 month of doing twice a week navel cupping and acupuncture, her bleeding stopped and she started cycling normally again. So this is just one of so many examples of how effective this navel cupping can be. So it's really fun to share this. Okay, so how I learned about this was through one of my mentors, Heather Bruce. She's next to me in this photo. And Heather Bruce has been practicing forever, for 40 plus years. And she's a midwife, an acupuncturist, and a naturopath in Australia. And so she practices there. She came to my clinic in 2018, stayed with us for 2 weeks, and did extensive teaching. So I learned from her hands-on. It was really an incredible learning experience. And she learned this back in the 80s from Dr. John Shen. So when Grace and I are good friends, Grace is on the end of this picture, and she treats a lot of men in her practice. I have a primarily perinatal practice where I see mostly women, and she sees both men and women. So this technique can be used on both men or women. And so I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Now, in terms of the theory, like, how does this freaking work? Basically, it's pulling the cold out, the blocked cold in their bodies. And it seems like everybody has this. And I live in San Diego where it's fairly warm. But even for my yin deficient women, I find that there is cold in their belly. If you actually palpate, run 12, run 8, run 6, 4, you'll see sometimes it is cold in certain areas. And I find a lot of cold in their belly buttons. So this navel cupping helps to rescue the yang because it pulls the cold out. And as we know, cold congeals, cold contracts, and cold blocks everything from flowing, as well as cold can transform into heat with that yin yang transformation. One leads into the other, which can cause a myriad of problems. So this cupping is also good for any kind of excess, wind, stagnation, stasis, phlegm, and especially cold. So when cold gets into the body, this could be from our diets, from lots of ice cold beverages. There's so many different ways that cold gets into our world. And lifestyle isn't really set up in the US for, healthy living. And a lot of people have a lot of healthcare problems. And so I found that I had a lot of really challenging patients when I first learned about this. And so I started cupping pretty much everyone, and I could not believe the change that happened in my practice. So what Heather Bruce told me, when in doubt, do navel cupping. It's going to pull whatever is stagnating so the body can actually heal itself. So these are some of the conditions that navel cupping supports. So everything from menstrual irregularities, any kind of GYN issue, any kind of digestive, gastrointestinal, urogenital, as well as mental, emotional challenges. My specialty is pregnancy, birth, postpartum. So I treat people from they don't even know they're pregnant to get this baby out. I've done, postpartum and everything in between. So this is not a contraindication for pregnancy at all. It's very different in the way it's done. And then lastly, this is really good for any kind of tics, tremors, twitches, any kind of wind, any kind of internal wind in the body. So I was supervising last year at PCOM in San Diego, and one of my students comes up to me and says, Dr. Davies, I do not know what to do with this patient. So I went into the room with her. She told me that the woman had a tremor. And so I walk in, and what I thought was like a violent tic. This woman was twitching a lot, very strongly, every 5 to 10 seconds. And she had been for 10 days, I believe. And she said it started a couple years ago. She had 2 car accidents within a month's time, and somehow it went away. But now she was studying for boards under an enormous amount of stress, and it came back. So I thought, okay, well, when in doubt, we're going to do navel cupping. So we cup her navel. And this is a student about to graduate, or she graduated and she was a TA and all the things. So she had never heard of this, was totally open to us trying it. So we put the navel cup on her belly, and within a few minutes, the tics started slowing down. So we covered her up, we made sure she had her sweater and everything, and we left her alone for about 20 minutes. And when we returned, no more tics. She never ticked again or tremored, whatever, however you want to say that. It stopped like completely. She sent me an email a few days later, like blown away. So it is extremely powerful and extremely helpful for those really challenging patients. So what do you need for the navel cupping? So you need a large round metal coin. So you can use something like a 50-cent piece. You can use a quarter. You can use a silver dollar. Go to the banks and ask for those 50-cent pieces or those silver dollars, because I feel like the bigger the better. The coin serves as a barrier, and it helps keep the essential chi inside the body and only pulls out what's pathogenic. And so this is why we're cupping with a coin instead of just regular cupping. So you need a tissue, a lighter, an extra large cup, and then some kind of carrier oil, and then warmth. You really want to keep these patients warm, and they often get cold while they're cupping. As we're pulling the cold out, they actually get cold. So I will always cover them up with their sweater or and a blanket, a heat lamp, whatever you have. And then the reason that I show this picture with this bowl is that in my clinic, I have a hot and cold water dispenser. So when I know I'm going to cup someone's navel, I'm going to fill this a third of the way with the hot water from the tea thing. And that way I just bring it in the room like that, and it's warming up. So a really big piece of this is warmth. And if somebody is cold, they have cold in their abdomen, you do not want to put, a cold cup onto a cold belly. So I really encourage you warming it up. So now it could be sitting there for 10 minutes while you're doing your intake. So you want to check it. You'll dry it off with a towel, but then check it on your inner arm so that you know it's not too hot. One of the worst things that you could do is put this cup onto somebody and have it burn them. And this happened to Heather Bruce, and so she built this into my head, and I think that's just really important, because as acupuncturists, really the only thing that's the worst thing that could happen is that we burn someone. We could get sued, so we don't want to burn anybody. So we want to be really careful. We want to warm the cup as well as warm the coin. So oftentimes I'll put the coin in my back pocket, so I just have it carrying it around with me, so that whenever I decide to use it, it's already body temperature. So that way I'm putting a body temperature coin, a body temperature cup onto that cold belt. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a full demo that I did in a class that I taught, and then I'll get into one at a time. My clinic is I put a bowl and I just heat up water from the tea kettle, and then I'll immerse the cup in there just to warm it because I don't want it to be cold when I'm trying to pull cold out of the body. So this is cupping to pull cold out of the body. So this could be for infertility, it could be during pregnancy. So I cup full-term pregnant ladies all the time. I saw a woman the other day who's 5 days overdue her due date, and she's going to be induced in 2 days. And she was freezing cold. So I was like, well, before I mock to her, let me pull the cold out of her body. Because again, cold congeals, it contracts, it doesn't allow the free flow of chi. So for her, it was going to be to have a baby. So I'm just going to let this warm up for a sec. I'm holding a coin in my hand, so I have a dollar coin, and I'm also warming it with my hand to get it to body temperature so that it's not cold when I put it on her. So what I'm going to do is take this coin. I'm going to wrap it in a tissue. So I'm going to have you lay back on your back, and we'll give you comfortable here. So what I do first is I just take a little bit of coconut oil, organic coconut oil, and just a little bit, and I'm going to touch your belly button. So I'm going to put it around here. So that's just so that it will stick very good. And now I'm going to take the tissue in the coin. This is like my little magic trick. And I'm just going to twist it. Twist it like this. And I am not going to burn you. I promise you. I've done this a million times. And so I take the top part off, and it often rips. It's no big deal. And so I'm just going to place this on your belly button. So this is really wonderful for so many things again. And so what we're going to do is pull the cold out of her body. And the reason that we have the coin is going to hold the essential chi or the essential energy in, and it's just going to pull the icky stuff out. Oh. So it's really interesting. When we remove the cup, oftentimes the umbilicus is freezing cold. So you can tell the cold came out. So I told you how I have, well, from my stillbirth experience, I have this freezing cold belly. And for years and years and years, all that acupuncture and herbs couldn't help it. But then once I started cupping my umbilicus, it really made a difference. Wow. So does this feel okay? It's not. Yeah, totally. Okay, so I'll let you hold that. So that's just a little hot pack. So this is how I do it. And so I'm just gonna light it here. And then I just throw the lighter because I don't want to focus on anything but her right now. It's just the way I go. It's the way I roll. Cool. You okay? Yeah. Is it too tight? No. Okay, so you can see the skin sort of comes up, and the heat just extinguishes itself, and it causes the skin to rise. And so I would just make sure she's warm. So I might like cover her with her things, and then I would just shake her hips a little bit just to like move the chi a little bit. And oftentimes we'll just cover her with blankets, make sure she's warm. And this in and of itself is a treatment. You don't have to do any needles, you don't have to do anything else. And I'll leave this on for 30 to 60 minutes. And it's so powerful. So if I was gonna do 30 minutes and I have the time, I'm gonna take the cup off, and then I'm gonna moxa her belly, and I'm gonna flip her over, and I'm gonna, or have her on her side if she's full-term pregnant, and do the moxa sacral fan and warm her feet, and boom, she gave birth. Amazing. So when I do this with full-term pregnant ladies, I'll have them sitting in that queen throne position, like sitting upright, and I'll have to put blankets to make sure the cup stays, but it works like it should. Yes. Thank you. So this girl was actually pregnant and didn't know it, and she went on to have a successful pregnancy, birth, and beautiful baby. So it was really fun to do. That green thing that I was holding was a hot pack. They have these really amazing Moxa hot pack. You just go on Amazon and Google that and you'll find them. I've never seen them on Lhasa or anywhere else. But it's an amazing product and it lasts for 24 hours. So if you can't do Moxa in your clinic, that's just another thing that you would do. So let's see. So Heather Bruce taught me that this is a treatment in and of itself, but I have to say, as an acupuncturist in San Diego, the people are coming for acupuncture and they want acupuncture and I want to give them what they want. So I do acupuncture with the navel cupping. And something else that's really great about navel cupping, if you're rocking several rooms and maybe you're running behind, somebody had a meltdown, whatever, you can go into your next patient and be like, oh, Sally, I learned this new technique. Let me try it with you. You know, you have a couple minutes, you pop it on her and you say, I'm going to come back in just a few minutes. That way you can go finish up with the other patient, come back in. So you can do this without needles. You can add the needles in. It works wonderfully. And then the amount of time to do the navel cupping varies from person to person. I kind of do what's comfortable for me. Like in the beginning, I wasn't really comfortable with this, so I just did shorter durations. And as I gained confidence, I became more comfortable and I was able to do it for longer and longer. My clinic is okay, so how do we perform this? So these are the steps of navel cupping. So if, I will send everybody a list, which will be an attachment tomorrow with the recording, and we'll have this list of the directions so that you have it in one place. So the first thing you want to do is look at the patient's tongue. So we're doing our initial intake, take a picture, because I have never seen tongues change as fast as I have with navel cupping. So I think it's very profound to be able to see a difference, 20, 30, and 60 minutes later. So very cool to do the picture thing. And then don't forget to take a picture at the end as well. So second, we're going to do what's called kind of like a Kegel. It's like a perineal pull-up. And so she's going to just do a little pull-up and see how it feels. And so once we have the cup on, or when she's done, she'll do another one. And this is incredible because when we're doing this changes the spleen chi a lot. When we're pulling out any damp or phlegm or anything that doesn't belong there, the spleen chi can function better. And the second time she does a perineal pull-up, she's going to feel better and stronger. So then we palpate the abdomen. And so we're palpating for cold here. So hot or cold, you're going to do above, below, and at the navel. And this picture was the only one I could find, whatever, but her hands should be at her side and have a bolster under her knees. You want her to be comfortable. So then we are going to rub the organic oil onto the patient's umbilicus. So if you are working with pregnant patients, this was me demoing on a pregnant patient. And so I put the oil on and then I have an adjustable table. So I actually will lower her down just for 1 minute while I light it and then put it back up. And that way it stays. And then you can see that blanket that's there was to hold the cup in place after I have lit it. So you want to find a large size coin. You can use a quarter, whatever you can find. I've seen people use Mexican coins, gold coins, whatever kind of coins you have. And it's really important that you warm it up so you're not putting an ice cold coin on an ice cold belly. And then we're going to put a tissue around the coin and we're going to twist it a little bit so it looks like this. Now, when you're first starting out, first of all, you can practice on yourself, which is the coolest thing. And I've probably done 100 times of 20 to 30, 60 minutes. I think one time I even took a nap and had 90 minutes. But I definitely had a lot of cold in my body. So when you do this, you want to make sure that with your extra large cup, that when you put it in, it's not touching the edges, the top. So sometimes I almost always have to pull off a little tissue just so it can be even, like you see in the picture. So just a little bit. Some of the tissues are extra large, some are smaller. So you figure out based on your size coin. And then you place that coin wrap tissue onto the patient's umbilicus. So you're going to warm that extra large cup. Hopefully you already did, or you could, if you have hot packs, you can just put it on a hot pack like I did in the class. Now you want to check that cup to your inner arm, especially if you think it's hot. You really don't want to burn somebody with this. And then I think it's important that you make the patient aware that you're going to touch them. I'm going to show you now, what it feels like. I just want to make sure the temperature is okay. Then you touch it to their abdomen to make sure the temperature is acceptable. It's not shocking while they're, learning this. So very easy to do. And, just be confident. If you measure it that it's not, it's smaller than that, you're going to be okay. And you can twist the tissue a little bit so that it's not, crazy. So you, once the temperature of the cup is acceptable, you light the top of the tissue. It doesn't matter what you're using to light it. I will just light one little area, and I don't let the flame get huge or anything. I pretty much just put the cup right on. And so you can kind of play with that timing piece so that you don't screw anything up, whatever. But you do want to share what is happening with the patient while it's going on, because people are really interested in this. And then people are profoundly feeling so much better after this. So I just think it's really cool. So then the next one we're going to do is shimmy the hips. So basically you're going to touch the ASIS on both sides and you just wiggle, 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 wiggle. And her belly's going to wiggle, or his belly's going to wiggle, the cup's going to wiggle a little bit. So we're just doing that to help circulate the chi. And another thing with the cupping, this is not orthopedic cupping. These cups do not need to be on so freaking tight. They do not. They barely need to be on there. So if it feels like it's too tight, and sometimes it tightens up as time goes on, just stick your finger under there and it makes a little noise and you just let a little air out, and it doesn't have to be super tight. We really want them to be comfortable with this, and we really want to keep them warm. So throw your blankets on, whatever else. So then we're going to let the patient rest. People always ask me how long, and I think that it's really a matter of how much time you have. How many patients are you seeing an hour? So you can play with it and just start slow. If you're unsure and you're just learning it, start with less time. And I find that people wanted this every single time they came back in. They kept requesting it and wanting it, and they felt profound results every single time. So once they rest, I would do the cupping often right away. Then I'll do the needles, and then I'll, make sure they're okay before I leave. I'll check on them a couple times, and I'll just come in and shimmy their hips. And then when you take that cup off, you just put your finger underneath the cup, and that creates the breaks the seal. Feel that umbilicus right away. And oftentimes it's freezing freaking cold. I have had sometimes where it's hot, but most of the time it's very cold. And especially on your difficult fertility cases, the people that have a lot of challenging cases. And then really depending on where you are in the world, in the colder areas, people are going to have a lot more cold, cold damage kind of thing. So then once you finish the cupping, you've removed the cup. Now we want to moxa. So we want to put that yang qi back into the body. And so Heather Bruce would kill me for this, but she always swears by regular moxa, good old, the old school moxa. I find that in San Diego, you can't have a clinic and do smoky moxa anywhere. And I understand she's in Australia and she can take people out to her back hut, but in the city, that's just not realistic. So I do use smokeless moxa with great success every time. So I will moxa the umbilicus, especially if it's cold. If it's not that cold, I might just do a couple minutes. But if it is really cold, I might sit there for 10 minutes, warming that abdomen, putting that yang qi back into the body. And then again, I'm going to flip the patient over and use a pole moxa again, and what we call moxa sacral fan. So if you use your hands on the sacrum, if you guys look at the screen for a second, some people have very narrow sacrums and some are a little wider. So you want to moxa where the sacrum is. So just doing that in the shape of a V in that area, 2 to 10 minutes. You could warm GB30 if that's cold. But this is very, very effective, and they really appreciate this. So if you have the time, if you don't do moxa in your clinic, I just strongly encourage you to find a way to incorporate it. You could sell those moxa hot packs that you can get on Amazon. Put one, tell them to put it on their belly after they do it. They got to keep it on for so many hours, something like that. But the moxa is paramount. And then we want to recheck the tongue, which is always so interesting. So it could be less of a coating. So we've pulled some of that excess off where it's sticky or damp or thick. Sometimes that can change. I've seen the marks change. It's really quite amazing. And then I have her do another perineal pull-up, and she often feels a major difference. Like her abdomen is a little tighter and stronger. So if you do take a picture before and after, it's really cool to compare. Let's see. Okay, I would tell you to use a specific kind of moxa. And this is what I use. So I had a trouble with the smokeless moxa not lighting also. And so I use longevity. I get this from Lhasa. And the thing that makes this one so special, let's see if I have any open ones, is, it has a hole in it. So I don't know if you can see that, but there is a hole in the middle of that moxa. And that makes it easier to light and to stay lit. So these are the only smokeless moxa I use because it works really well. So hopefully, is the moxa pack as effective as the smokeless stick? I don't know. I mean, the moxa pack is really hot. This is what it looks like in a bag. Um, it gets really, really hot. So sometimes people are going to move it around. I don't know. It does have moxa in it. So if you don't have access, you can't do moxa in your clinic, use what you got. So I would say I always do the moxa, but I have had people that were affected, like it made them allergic or they didn't like it. So yes, we just modify and we use whatever we got. So I think it can still work. Somebody asked about this with contraindications. So if somebody has an umbilical hernia, no, we are not doing navel cupping. If they have a belly button ring, we would ask that they remove the ring. If it's infected or there's any kind of broken skin, we do not want to cup in that area. Now, some people have asked me, what happens if blisters form, Deb? So I've only seen that once in, so many years, 6 years that I've been doing that. And it happened with a very obese woman, and she thought it was funny that there was there was blisters. And there was 3 blisters that formed inside of her umbilicus in that area where the cup was. And I probably only cupped her about 20, 25 minutes. And she was joking that she thought it was the Cheetos coming out of her body because she was so toxic and had such a toxic diet. So what do we do? Nothing. Do not touch the blisters. Do not pop the blisters. If they were to, they're usually fine, and they'll just put a Band-Aid on it or just let it heal on its own. But I haven't seen any problems with this at all. So now blisters happen when excess dampness. Yes, of course. So that makes sense too. So I want to share a couple stories that I've had with such great success with the navel cupping. So we had a woman in her mid 40s, and she was suffering with a vaginal discharge, and she was yang deficiency, and she had cold symptoms, stomach ache, back ache for 20 plus years, and frequent urination. So this woman we cupped regularly. I think I was seeing her weekly, and within a month, it was incredible how the vaginal discharge decreased. Her stomach aches decreased, her back aches were less, and her urination was not as frequent. So it's really exciting to see, various conditions that we can support with navel cupping. So one February, we had a cold snap in San Diego. Yes, it does get cold here. And this woman called me 20 weeks pregnant or 22 weeks pregnant. She's pregnant with twins. She's planning a a birth center birth, I think, or a midwife birth. She wanted everything natural. She's freaking out that she's having contractions. It's her first babies, whatever. So she says, I hear you can help me. Can I come in? Yes, we get her in there. And this woman was freezing cold. And it was, a cold snap in San Diego. So the cold caused her to start contracting and going into preterm labor. So we saw her twice a week for a couple of weeks, and we pulled a bunch of cold out. We did a lot of moxa with her, and her contractions stopped. And she actually carried to 40 weeks gestation with the twins. And she delivered perfectly, no complications, healthy babies, healthy mom, life is good. So it's really cool to see it be able to help really like life-threatening things. Like if someone gives birth at 22 weeks, the chance of those babies surviving is very low. So it feels like I'm a miracle worker to be able to do this, help people get pregnant, stay pregnant, as well as all sorts of things. So many patients come in stressed out of their minds, or we have these complicated cases. They have so many different patterns. We're like, oh, what do we treat first? So this is a great start for this. I had an attorney that I was treating, and she was coming in for stress and migraines. And the first time we cupped her, she was just floored with the change. And every single time she came in, she was like, you must do the navel cupping. You must. So make sure you have enough extra large cups for you have rooms in your clinic too, because it does become very popular very quickly there. So natural promotion of labor is something that I have specialized in, so to speak. And because I work so much with pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, this really helps women prepare labor preparation and then natural promotional labor. I would never call it a labor induction because only Pitocin and Cytotec and drugs induce labor. We do not induce labor. I would really encourage people to say that it's natural promotional labor. So many women call me because their doctor's scheduling an induction for them. And unfortunately, the induction rates have rose significantly over the years to about, I think it's 24% right now, as well as our C-section rates have risen incredibly. When I was born in the 1970s, the C-section rate in the US was anywhere from 7 to 12%. And now we're at 33%, 32, 33% national average. While a C-section can be a life-saving procedure, the United States has the highest maternal mortality rates of all developed nations. All of them, by far. It's like 30 some odd women out of every 100,000 dying in and around birth. So every woman that gets pregnant has to give birth. So I really think this can be super helpful for getting their labor going. So I will incorporate navel cupping into a full-term pregnant woman. And one of my patients was so great. We did this, I cupped her, and then the next day she sends me a picture that was hysterical. And it was her like in the ambulance because she didn't get to make it to the hospital to have the baby. It happened so quick. So it's really exciting to be able to treat, these kind of situations. And some people don't treat pregnancy and especially this kind of thing because of liability issues, which is totally understandable. We all have to CYA here, but I would encourage you to find a company that will cover this kind of thing, like CM&F. That's who I use. It's in New York, New York. I don't get anything from, mentioning this, but they cover pregnancy. I'm a birth doula and I attend births. So I can treat somebody where the baby's half in, half out. It doesn't matter if I'm in California, New York, in an airplane, an elevator, I'm covered. And I feel good about that. So I just think a lot of times people say that, oh, because of the insurance. And I think that it's okay to make a shift. So imagine a shift in your practice where you extend your knowledge beyond fertility by not only helping your patients to get pregnant, but to stay pregnant, carry to term, prepare for a safe birth, give birth, heal postpartum, and then some people repeat the process over and over and over again. So this is a picture of a fertility patient I had in my clinic a couple years ago, and she was amazing. She was early 30s. All of her friends were having babies. She was always crying that she was not pregnant, and she was so healthy. And so I did some cupping with her a few times. And within 2 months of regular treatments, she got pregnant with twins by herself. So it was really cool. I was able to treat her all through her pregnancy, help her prepare for birth, as well as recover postpartum. She had healthy boys. Her twins were perfect. So it's really exciting. So what if your fear of treating pregnant patients transforms into complete confidence? So I am really excited to share with you guys something that I'm really proud of. I don't think there's anything else out there like this for acupuncturists wanting to study pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So this is a mentorship program where I work with Net of Knowledge, and they do the CEUs, you get lifetime access, and basically once a week for 12 consecutive weeks, we meet online. 1 month is all about pregnancy. The second month is all about birth and birth preparation. And the third month's about postpartum. We do monthly mentoring calls. We have guest speakers, master herbalists, midwives, pelvic floor PTs, all sorts of cool people. And then we also have a private Facebook group. So if this interests you, I'm really looking for students that want to study this information with me and or learn this because it's not really out there. So some of my past students have had great success with the program. One lady was so awesome. She was so lucky because while she was in school, she treated a pregnant patient in the school clinic. Well, that lady's doctor reached out to her and said, "Hey, I'd like you to rent a room in my office as soon as you graduate." And she was terrified of treating pregnant ladies. And after doing this course, she said she's no longer terrified, and the doctor opened the floodgates of patients on her, and she's doing great. And then another one became so much more confident in her ability to help patients as well as see an increase in her business. So I would love for you guys to join me. The next mentorship is going to start in the fall. And like I said, we meet once a week for 2 hours live online. It is recorded. You have lifetime access, all the everything's, the PowerPoints, all of that. And this is really for people who want to become experts in women's health. And a lot of people study a lot of that fertility. And I just find so many people, like when it comes to the pregnancy, they're just terrified. So I want to help you go all the way from fertility through postpartum. So the best way, and what I would really like, if this interests you, is to book a complimentary virtual visit and let's talk. Let's talk about where you are, wherever you are. And I've had people in their last year of school. I've had people practicing for 20 years plus take the course. So it doesn't really matter where you are. But if you want to do this and this is exciting for you, please sign up to chat with me in the next 24 hours, and I want to give you a 10% discount for the mentorship. All right, so that is it today on my class, and now we're going to open the floor for any questions. Anybody have any questions, comments, anything anybody would like to say?
Deb, there were quite a few that came through in the chat, so I
Okay,
was going to go ahead and read through the ones there were some that
perfect.
were easy to answer. So
Okay.
somebody asked, would the benefits be the same with navel cupping as with like a fire cup?
Would the benefits be the same? I think the difference is the coin. And so when we have that coin on the umbilicus, it's only going to pull the pathogenic chi and it's going to keep the essential chi of the body. So I do think that navel cupping is superior to regular fire cupping.
And then the next question was about the type of oil. You said coconut oil. She asked, could you use grapeseed oil or anything in case
Whatever
people...
carrier oil you like. is perfect. I just tend to use coconut oil in my office, but I think whatever you like. And then also the other thing to know with the oil is if you're doing this with men or the hairier their belly, the more oil you will need. So I find that it is a lot harder with hairy men to do this versus, women with no hair, but
Perfect.
just more oil, a lot more oil for them.
Perfect. And then somebody said I would assume castor oil could be used, but not with a non-pregnant lady that's not at term. Makes sense.
Wait, say that again?
So somebody just said that they assumed castor oil could be used as long as it wasn't with a pregnant lady that was not yet to term.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure you could use coconut oil. The only reason I use the oil is so that it adheres easily to the body. And that's how I was taught. So I don't use a ton of oil. Normally, I'm mostly treating women. Um, I just use a little bit
yeah,
and just go. Um, yeah,
awesome. And then someone, Zen Chung said, do you use this all 3 trimesters?
I do. I will cup them in early labor. It could be things like they're worried about having a miscarriage or something like, or not early labor, early pregnancy, the first trimester. A lot of people want hold the baby in treatment, which is something that I do a lot. When people are spending tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars through IVF, they want to keep that baby. And so we do hold the baby in treatment. That's something I would teach more about in the mentorship as well. Um, second trimester, it's a lot of aches and pains and things like that. Um, I've used this for really crazy conditions like PUPS and cholecystitis, and with again success. I find success each time I use this. So I don't have any hesitations in pregnancy at all. And full term, a lot of times I will do this on full-term women to help them avoid an induction. And a lot of times the pregnant ladies will say, oh, I'm so hot, I'm so hot, I'm so hot. But when you actually touch them and you palpate their abdomen or their glutes, they're freezing cold. So we have to pull that cold out. That cold needs to get out of there so that there's space and energy for her body to function properly. There's so many challenges with giving birth as it is these days that we just want to help them as much as possible. So I hope that answers his question.
Perfect. And then somebody also asked about this related to menopause and also around prolapse.
Yeah, I think that this would be great because it really helps with removing any excess, will tonify the spleen. People will feel a big difference when they do that pull up or, the perineal pull up. Um, so I think that that is helpful there as well.
Awesome. And then somebody else asked, if cupping for 30 minutes, do you needle at the same time or after?
Yeah, I see a lot of questions on timing, like when would you use this alone or part of your treatment? So I think for you guys that are just learning this process, just do it, like just uh find a way to start. And I would start slowly and then add more time. I find that people really love this. So a lot of this depends on how your clinic is run. And so if you see one patient an hour and you have all the time in the world and you're just with them, this is great. But some people have, 3 or more patients an hour and they're busy and they're rocking back and forth. So I think you can fit this to any way that you want for your practice to work for you. Um, I start off with people slow and do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It depends on my timing, the first time. And then if I pull that cup off and it's freezing cold on their umbilicus, I'm going to keep doing this for quite some time. And some people I've done for like a year. And people really, really appreciate that. So I think that you can do it alone. I was taught that's how you do it is nothing else. Don't do anything else. But I just feel like as an acupuncturist in San Diego, where there's thousands of other acupuncturists and people come for acupuncture, they want acupuncture. So
Mhm.
at first I tried to not do acupuncture with the cupping, but everyone pretty much revolted because I'd already been practicing with acupuncture. So people wanted the needles. So I would do some ear points, or I would do like a root treatment and just do something. I don't typically do any abdominal points while I am cupping, but there is no reason that you couldn't cup and then um, do the cupping and then oh, I'm sorry, I'm just drawing a blank.
Needle after.
Yeah, after. You could start with them with the cup on and then just be intaking or talking to them and just go through the, whatever you need.
Yeah. And then somebody asked about what about cancer patients going through chemo?
I don't treat cancer at all. And I've had one cancer patient my whole career because one of my existing patients got cancer. So I really don't treat cancer. So I don't know the answer to that. I always refer out to specialists who do. In San Diego, since there is so many of us, I find that specialization works really well. And my friends that treat cancer send their pregnant ladies to me, and I send my cancer. So I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that question. When in doubt, I don't deal with cancer patients. So what
Mhm.
else do we have?
How often do you do the navel cupping to get the results you spoke of? You might have already answered that question.
Well, I think everyone's pretty different. But I find that the first time you cup somebody is always very profound. And they're like, that was the best treatment I ever had, especially the first time, because a lot is going to shift and change. So I think that you just kind of have to play with it. If somebody has a lot of excess phlegm, a lot of dampness, it might take a little bit more time to get all of that out. And like I said, I have been doing it on myself, and I've done hours and hours and hours of it, and I still yeah, it's like 80 degrees out and I still have a cold belly. So I don't have as many challenges, but it's super effective. You guys should try it on yourselves first, because it's something you could actually lay down, put the thing, do the thing, or try it on your husband, partners, whatever, besties. People will be really impressed with the results, and I think that you'll love it.
And then this is a similar question to before, but it was when would you use this alone? Like just the navel cupping versus making it part of your acupuncture treatment.
So if you don't know what to do, then you could just do this and go research and figure out what to do. Like, so that was what I would suggest. If it's a really complicated case, like, when in doubt, do it. Do it, because removing that excess helps the body function better and the chi flow so it can heal itself with whatever it's dealing with.
And then somebody said, can we use another type of cup, such as the one with the pump or the silicone ones?
Um, I find that the glass cups are most effective. They're the strongest. I would never use anything but glass with fire. So I would not suggest it. I would suggest to just stick with the glass cups. And you could just buy one if you want, just go get just make sure it's the biggest one you can find.
Right. And then somebody said, is a TDP heat lamp sufficient if we cannot use moxa to warm the body after navel cupping? Would you avoid heat over the abdomen in the first trimester of pregnancy?
I would be cautious with it, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that people should really find ways to use Moxa. This is the one magical tool that we have. So I know Lhasa also sells a device, I think it's called electric Moxa. It's around $1,100. So if you're working in a space where you cannot do Moxa, it's a special device that you put your Moxa in, and it's smokeless, smellless, but is still able to do the Moxa. So maybe something like that if you have or I really think that these Moxa hot packs work. I don't think that the hot lamps are enough, because you put it on one area and then you leave the room. What about her feet? What about, anything else that's cold? So one of my teachers told me this early on in my practice, in my schooling, was if you're having babies at this time or anytime, save your baby blankies so that you can have little blankies to put on a shoulder or an upper belly or a lower belly or something like that, so that you can keep them warm in the treatments.
And then somebody else commented about, would this also be good for people who are on antibiotics since they create so much cold in the body?
I believe it would, and I bet a lot of cold would come out as well.
For sure. Okay, and I'm seeing if there's anyone. There's liquid moxa, and you can use it with a TDP
Oh, that's
lamp.
right. You can do that. Um, yeah, I would not use a TDP lamp with a pregnant woman on her belly, maybe on her sacrum or something, but I would not do it on her belly, maybe her feet as well.
And that's all the questions that were in the chat.
Does anybody want to come off mute and ask questions, or anybody have anything to say? Comments? This is my first time teaching this, so I'm so happy you guys were here, and it's really important for me to share this message, or this little tip, because we can help more people. And I just think it's really cool how our lights, shine brighter when we come together as community. So I am going to be sending everybody the recording for this class. And if anybody has questions or comments or would like to reach out to me, please reach out. I'll send an email tomorrow with all the information and the recording. And again, we are recruiting for the perinatal mentorship starting this fall. If you're interested, or if you know anybody that might be interested, please share this with them, because I don't think there's anything like this in our TCM world. And I think really trying to fill a missing link, fill in the gaps. So thank you guys for your time and your energy today. I really appreciate you all being here with me. It's been fabulous.
Thanks so much. We just became unmuted.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I'm grateful for your time. I've taken 1 hour, free classes before, and I'm less than impressed with what is offered. You were very generous with your knowledge in this short time, and you gave some very key points for safety. And I actually commented in the chat as well, but I appreciate that.